So category 4, so this is, as Alison mentioned at the start, this is kind of the broadest category that we have, and we've got a few, I guess, examples of circumstances that are considered. And just to flag here that some of these examples may be distressing for some people, so there is some support services that we'll touch on at the end of this presentation that you can reach out to if anything that we've spoken about today has brought some negative feelings and you need to have a chat. There's plenty of support services around. So you can see on the screen there's a lot of examples that are listed there. So it could be that you've got an asylum seeker status, you could have had a death of an immediate family member, divorce or separation of parents during year 12, natural disasters, there's a whole range of things. And probably the last point that I'll touch on there is that bullying, harassment, or negative treatment because of personal characteristics such as race, religion, sexual characteristics, gender identity, or sexual orientation. So if you've been, I guess, the victim of that point, then I certainly would recommend applying for that category. So go over to the next slide. There are a few other examples that you might like to consider as well. So, having to support your family working on a farm, I would assume most of you probably aren't in that category, but you may potentially travel long distance to school and are unable to study on the bus. You might have to translate for your parents who don't speak English. You might have to care for somebody who you live with that experiences a disability or medical condition. So that's where we differentiate between category 3, which is your medical condition, and category 4, which is somebody else's medical condition that has impacted you. So there is a full list of circumstances that are considered and not considered, and that's available on the VTAC website. So I would recommend just having a look at that just to see if any of those circumstances have happened to you and whether that's impacted your education as well. So in terms of the evidence that's required, so most circumstances in this category will require you to provide an impact statement and a statement of support. So for the statement of support, it must be a responsible person, which Alison touched on a little bit earlier. So it could be someone like a teacher, a lawyer, or a police officer. If it is a teacher, similar to doctors and everybody else, they do get extremely busy throughout the year. So please give them, I guess, lots of notice so they've had time to prepare that statement of support to verify the impact that it's had on your education. So in terms of the impact statement for category 4, there's only 2 sections that you need to worry about. So it's the what and the how, so the name of the condition, the timeline, the circumstance, but more importantly, how it's impacted your education. So the character limits are different between category 3 and category 4. It does note that down on the VTAC website, but as Alison mentioned, a great tip is just to write it out on Microsoft Word. It's got counts the characters for you, but it also checks for grammatical errors and things like that as well. So there are, obviously some high impact circumstances within category 4, and for those that there are, I guess, different processes that you will need to follow. So we'll touch on that in just a moment. These can include things like COVID-19 and the impact of remote learning on you, summer bushfires, refugee or asylum seeker applicants, sexual assault victims, homelessness, family violence, formal out-of-home care. So there is a different process for these circumstances. So we'll touch on these in the next slide. So for COVID-19, you don't need to complete an impact statement and a statement of support. With this instead, you will need to, I've actually just got the same notification you did, Alison. I might just get you to click through. We must have an update coming through to the next, I guess, some of the aspects of this slide as well.
Yeah, I think it's just 1 second, Andrew. I think it's just
all right.
stuck.
That's okay.
There we go.
There we go. Perfect. So this is what it's going to look like for you. So instead of doing an impact statement and a statement of support, it's more of a tick box, and you can, I guess, self-assess how COVID-19 and the impact on your education has been. So it doesn't require a statement of support, but in terms of the school will need to do something from their end. I won't touch on that in a lot of detail, but they do need to, I guess, verify the impact on your education. So, be truthful. I know we've all been impacted, but if you have had reliable internet access, don't lie, basically. So just click those tick boxes. And we've all been impacted by COVID-19, so this is certainly a category that I would recommend applying for as well. So just kind of following on from this as well, your school will provide, I guess, a statement of support or verify your self-assessment as well. But you are able to submit a statement of support or impact statement, sorry, I should say, an impact statement if there is anything that wasn't in those tick boxes that has also impacted you. So it could be death of a family member, related to COVID-19. It could be any type of thing that's impacted your education that's not already listed as well. So with the summer bushfires, hopefully none of you were impacted by this, but if you were, you would just need to click the yes button on the question there, and there will just need to be a statement of support as well from a responsible person to verify that you were impacted. So if you're applying as a refugee or asylum seeker, there's eligible visa subclasses, so you just need to upload the visa grant notice and tick category 4 on the C's application. This is only available for some of those visas, so if yours is not eligible, you cannot provide your grant notice, you will automatically be prompted for option 2, and that's where the impact statement and statement of support can be included, and we've touched on that in a bit of detail as well. So these are some of the high impact circumstances, and I hope none of you have been through this, but if you have, we're not asking, or VTAC I should say, isn't asking for you to submit an impact statement or a statement of support for these categories. Instead, there is a bit of a different process that you can submit. So we'll go to the next slide there as well, which kind of touches on that. So there's questions that I guess relate to those specific examples. Obviously tick yes if you do fit within that category, but rather than doing an impact statement, we just get you to upload a letter from a recognised government or community organisation as supporting documentation. But if you did want to provide an impact statement, again, keeping in mind that it isn't required, but if you wanted to, you are able to submit that as a part of your C's application as well. So keep that in mind, but hopefully none of you have been through that circumstance. So